Hello, and thank you for tuning in to the Flatirons Syndicate Motorsports Podcast. This show is brought to you by Flatirons Tuning, your source for any aftermarket or OEM Subaru parts. Be sure to check out our store at flatironstuning.com and stay tuned with Flatirons Tuning.
All right. Well, welcome back, everybody. This is episode number 62 of the Flatirons Syndicate Motorsports Podcast. And we've got Scotty in the shop. Dussex is here with us. Not in his top secret location, but that's okay. Tasso is actually in the shop, and we've got a special guest with us again. We have got Olly Clark from Roger Clark Motorsports joining us again. And Olly, first and foremost, thank you very much again for taking the time and coming back to chat with us.
No, it's great. It's always good to catch up with you guys and what's happening the other side of the pond.
Yes, I mean
there's always so much to cover, and I think we've all got the same petrol head illness, so we could talk forever. So no, it's great to be back. And firstly, and obviously we spoke last year. Happy New Year! I've not said hello.
Yes.
Properly. So
to you as well. Yeah, and there's not a whole lot of excitement. I was just telling you, we've got this winter weather. It's like below freezing here today, so it's not very exciting to be out. I guess if you're in a Subaru and you have a hankering for donuts, maybe it's okay. But that's
definitely
about it. But there's a lot of stuff on the horizon. A lot of things that are in the works for 2022. It seems like there's a big push to kind of get a lot of races and motorsports and stuff going again. I mean, 2021 was a good year, but it seems like there's just a lot of people that they've been working on their cars. They want to get them out this year and see what's going to happen. And I would have to say that I think you fall into that, Olly. The 2022, you kind of, maybe you've got a car that you want to get out to the track and finally do some stuff with.
Yeah, definitely. I think with the whole, obviously the whole pandemic thing, everyone's sort of built up and it's literally like a pressure cooker, and everyone's been dying to get out there. And I think it's the same over here as well. It literally is a bit of a time bomb, but very exciting, really exciting. And last year was a really, really good year as well. So this year is going to be pretty awesome. So really excited. All positive,
cool.
which is great. It's great to see the world recover and come back bouncing,
It does seem like things are moving in that way, which is, man, it's been a long time coming. So ready for it. Well, and last time we had you on, you gave us a glimpse of Gobstopper 3 because you had not done the official reveal of Gobstopper 3 yet. But now it's out there. You've done some teasers. You've shown what Gobstopper 3 is. And so first, I just want to see it, like, where are you at with it? Where are you in the progress of getting Gobstopper 3 ready to roll?
Yeah, so I mean, it's the great thing is that we actually now have been out on track with the car, which is amazing. We've done a lot of dyno work, just running it on the rollers, getting some miles on the transmission, and just bedding everything in, which was great. But obviously, it's very, very different to running the car in anger with all the aero working. You've got other cars on track. You've got obviously tyre temperatures and grips to start thinking about, and obviously the whole handling thing, which is obviously a major part with that car. So obviously the development continues, and Matt literally does not stop. He lives, breathes the car. If he remembers to sleep, then he will do, but literally he's on it 24/7. His brain does not stop. So yeah, sure, we brought it all together, and we managed to get a test in before the weather turned miserable and cold. And half an hour from where we are in Leicester, which is bang in the middle of the UK, we've got a great track called Donington Circuit, which has had Formula One in the past. A big touring car. It's one of the UK's sort of big circuits, similar to Silverstone. And yeah, it's a real driver's circuit. So a great, and it's on our doorstep as well. So it's a perfect sort of starting point just to start building some miles on the car and try and get to know it, basically, because it is just a different animal altogether.
Is it entirely different than the previous Gobstoppers? Is there any kind of similar feeling to it or similar, or is it just all new?
It's from a driving perspective, I mean, as the guys that are with us, when you're driving a modified car, it still resembles a stock car, a street car, but a little bit more angry. And you can relate. You can relate to those types of car. It's just depend on different levels of angry, if that makes sense, as to how different it is to a stock car. But Gobstopper 3 literally is a different mindset altogether. From the limited running that we did, the brain was just trying to get its head round what the car has to offer as quick as possible. And on paper, the car is literally like driving an Exocet missile. But actually, what did surprise me is actually how it wants to look after you, and actually doesn't want to try and catch you out. It wants to take you. Obviously, we've all got this imaginary bar that the brain says, no, you're not going faster than this bar. But the bit above that bar is where the Gobstopper wants to operate. So literally,
what's possible?
Yeah, exactly. And the car wasn't twitchy. The faster you drove it, the more you could feel the aero. And I can feel it only getting better the faster it goes. It's literally about the size of the old kahunas as to how far we go beyond the bar, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Now the Aero Package, you worked with Andrew Brilliant to develop the Aero Package, is that right?
That's right, yeah. Andrew's done a great job with that.
And then did you get the Aero Package first? So like basically, because he did just this crazy floor of the car and all that. And then did you have to take, this is the aero design, and then did you have to build the framework of the car around the aero design, or did you give him like a starting parameter of like, this is roughly what we want the size and shape of the car to be for him to kind of start working with, so you weren't coming at it like completely blind once you got the Aero Package designed?
I think there was a real, to be fair to Andrew, he's done a great job, and obviously he clearly knows what he's doing, and it was really close from the beginning, from the first sort of concept, coupled with great communication with Matt and Andrew, so that the guys didn't disappear on a tangent. And actually then when you came to make it, you think, Christ, how are we gonna the underfloor, how are we gonna get the suspension to work around the rear diffuser and stuff like that? Didn't really happen. Sure, there was some sort of modifications and adjustments along the way, but yeah, it was pretty good. I mean, this modern technology of sort of CFD and scanning components really kind of accelerated the sort of trial and error thing that we'd probably previously done in the past. So the starting point has been really, really good, and literally it's just about sort of tweaking things to make fiction become fact, So
yeah,
it's pretty good.
Did you, as far as like the chassis design and like the suspension and the pickup points, did you use maybe like Gobstopper II as kind of a rough framework of like even just like what the shape of the suspension was going to be, so that you weren't like coming in with a brand new Aero Package, but then coming in with a completely new suspension geometry that you were just going to have to also try and figure out?
Yeah, it's all brand new, John.
It is.
It's literally, obviously Gobstopper 1 started life as a road car that got stripped and kind of evolved.
Yeah.
Gobstopper 2 started off as a road car shell, which we changed sort of suspension pickup points, and got to a sort of final spec. Gobstopper 3 literally was from a blank sheet of paper.
Starting completely over.
Completely from scratch, yeah.
Okay.
And again, for the small amount of testing that we've done and the way it feels now is real sort of testament to Matt and everyone that's been involved with the project, how good it feels already in these early days. So yeah,
I'd love to hear, do you have lap times from Donington? Are you willing to share that information?
Of course, yeah. I mean, we did, the initial shakedown that we did was 10 laps. 10 laps would have won the time attack event that happened 2 weeks prior. And it did a 106, literally straight out of the box. And that was, I think if you were to break the lap into 6 components, I would say 2 of the components were pushing on. The other 4 were either working away around traffic or dealing with giving the guys feedback in the pits. And again, just trying to kind of get under its skin and get to know it. So it's just really encouraging, and it would be really nice to see it go under like a sub 1 minute around Donington.
Sure. Because I think I did a quick like internet search, and I think Formula One lap times were just under a minute. So you're within about 10 seconds, I think, of the top Formula One lap time there, which is out of the box. That's amazing.
Yeah.
What was the winning time for the time attack 2 weeks before?
I think it was a 108, something like that, 108.5 or something.
Because there's a bunch of good cars over there. I mean, there's nothing to really laugh at in that time attack series. So,
yeah,
I mean, for you to come right out of the box with a brand new car and at least best them by about 2 seconds is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's still really early days, and it wasn't really the intention to find a lap or a lap time. It was literally just to build some miles on the car. So obviously on the day with any event, obviously there are conditions, whether it's raining or not, or whether the traffic that you might have on an event. But it's really, really encouraging at these early stages as to what the car is going to give us back. So yeah, it was good. The test day went well. There was a little bit of traffic. You have to kind of respect, there's quite often some expensive machinery out there as well. So you have to give each other plenty of room. We had quite high gearbox temperatures, which is something that Matt's been busy working on over the past sort of couple of months, just getting those gearbox temperatures down to a sensible level. The rest of it, we did some, again, one of the adjustments we made was ride height to kind of optimize the aero. But again, we only had the 10 laps, and because of the high gearbox temperatures, we didn't go too crazy. But there will be more shakedowns. I would think we've probably got another 2 or 3 tests before we start leaning on the car in anger, basically.
Can I ask, as you're approaching the testing, do you kind of have like a list of benchmarks that you want to hit as far as like level of comfort with some of the systems in the car, or progress with some of the systems, like, brakes, transmission, that sort of thing? And you're just kind of, as you're testing, are you kind of reaching a benchmark and saying, okay, well, I feel comfortable with this. Now we need to address this factor and get to the point where we're comfortable with those?
I think it's probably like, John, when you go on holiday to somewhere new, you have no idea about where you're going, and you don't really know where to eat. You don't know where, the restaurants are. You don't know where, and literally it's a similar thing where you're trying to get to know somewhere really quickly, and then so that you can then make the most of it. And the car was the same. It was literally, okay, in you get, let us know what you think.
Right.
And yeah, it was a baptism of fire, in a nice way. It was yeah, I mean, he's awesome. It was absolutely awesome. So, but really pleased.
It's better than like getting in and oh god, this thing's trying to kill me right away.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's interesting, because Gobstopper 1 was like that. And every time I drove it, Gobstopper 1 was like that. And it never changed. And even if I drove it today, I know we've got this love-hate relationship. It will try and kill me. I know. But as you get a bit older and wiser, you just kind of leave it alone. Just let it have its time. But that's what I was expecting, but it didn't feel like that at all, which is a really nice feeling. That's for sure.
That's definitely a testament to just how much the elements of design have increased, and just like you're saying, with computer-aided design and being able to test things in a computer before you even have to physically make them. So you can get like a sense, and it gets you maybe 7/10 of the way, 8/10 of the way there before you even like physically have to build the thing, and then you're just doing kind of a refinement at the end.
Yeah, interesting. The other thing that we did as well, because I mean, Andrew's done an amazing job, which has all been CFD, all obviously through the computer. We have got this amazing facility, literally 2 minutes west of here, called MIRA, which is the Motor Industry Research Association.
Okay.
And in there they've got some great. It's a proving ground. So there's circuits, there's handling courses, there's a skid pan where they can sprinkle water and you can drive in the wet. They've also got a fridge as well, so you can take a car down to sort of minus 40 degrees. But
wow.
The best part is they've got a wind tunnel as well. So it was great. We literally wheeled the car over and literally checked Andrew's data and made sure that the wings were doing what they're meant to be doing and the floor was working. And that was really invaluable. And again, sort of confirmation that what we've done is on the right lines, you know. Sure, there's tweaks to come. But yeah, it was just nice after the thousands of hours that have gone into the car that Myra turned around and say, yep, that's going to work. So it was good.
So I have to ask, how much downforce does it make?
I know, I can't give you an actual number, not because I can't tell you, it's because I want to, if I tell you, I want to be absolutely spot on with that data. But I will let you know next time we chat. I'll tell you exactly what downforce we've got. 100%.
I'm sure it's a lot. I'm sure it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot of downforce, but you can feel that as well. You can feel it. Also, you can feel it when you change gear as well. The inertia that it gives you. So that's good.
Interesting.
Well, I'm curious.
Go ahead.
I'm just curious from an engineering mindset perspective, because you talked about your gearbox temperatures being high. When you go back and you look at that and you look at ways to solve that problem, I'm kind of curious from a professional outfit, like what your process is in doing that. Do you just put a larger cooler on that and test it again and see if that works, or do you go back to the drawing board? Or I'm curious what a professional professional outfit's process is for something like that.
Obviously, the more componentry like radiators, pumps, coolers that you add into a car, you're adding weight. So if you can get away with not running it, then obviously that's ideal. But until you put a car in the environment that it's meant to be running, as in you've got air flowing through the actual car itself, you never actually really know for real. Obviously, you get a bit of an idea on the dyno, but you can't really tell until you start driving it in anger. Obviously, that then creates a problem to fix. We've done quite a lot of cooling work in the past with fuel coolers, engine oil coolers, gearbox oil coolers, diff oil coolers. So we've got a pretty good starting point as such. We're not just starting from scratch with it. We've done other projects as well, so it isn't really a guessing game. Sure, you never stop learning. Every day is a school day. But Matt's done a really good. Matt also, whenever he does engineering solutions, he tends to go overboard with it. As in, if it needs to be strong by a factor of 10, he'll go to 15 or 18. And the same with the cooling. Sure. If we need to make sure the car stays at 85 degrees, Matt will make sure that it will do 150 degrees. And I think that's in a lot of cases with our products, something that we've always done. We've come from a motorsport background as opposed to like an automotive garage, like a servicing background. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of it's part of our DNA, I guess, into fixing things. And I think it's fair to say if you can build a competition car, you can actually build most things in life, whether it be a house or an aeroplane or whatever.
Burrito.
Yeah. Just find all the struggles of dealing with all these problems, and it's like you find the problem comes up, you find a solution, which presents another problem, which you then have to find a solution. It's like it's a never-ending game. And once you kind of get comfortable with that, you realize we're going to find the next problem, and then we'll find a way to fix it. And it's just it changes your mindset.
Absolutely, John. And what you've got to remember is you've got fuel, flammable fuel under pressure, next to oil under pressure, which is hot, next to red hot turbos, and you've got to try and get all these components together in a small area without the thing exploding. So when you find that engineering solution, which is done by experience, using the right components, you know, a race car is a real challenging thing to try and create from scratch. When you come to build a house, it's straightforward. You've just got a bit of plumbing, you've got a bit of hot and cold water, and that is it. Building a race car does definitely stretch the old brain, but we're slowly getting the hang of it.
And with running it too, I mean, you're taking it right up into this extreme condition where, like, you build a house and, like, well, I don't know if it's going to withstand a hurricane or not, but we're in the middle of an island, so probably won't ever come in. But then maybe one time it happens, and you get to throw it up and, like, well, let's see what happens. But with a race car, like, that's where you're always putting the car in its state of running. You're always taking it right up to the limit.
Up to the limit, and then because we're all petrol heads, we want to go beyond that as well and further. So literally, it doesn't stop. So, but yeah, you're absolutely right, John. It's a big challenge. You know, it's a big investment as well. But you know, it is the kind of backbone of kind of what we're about and how we've ended up in this arena. And it's great. It's great to share it with everyone as well. So that's the important thing.
Well, Ryan, you've been awful quiet today. What are you thinking? What's on your mind?
So yeah, I've been just looking at pictures of your guys' facility over here on my second screen, and it's awesome that, like, you guys have such a immense facility, and, like, literally the pictures that are on Google Maps are pictures that people have taken. So I think it's super cool that you guys let people in and, you know, and share a lot of this stuff, not just, like, you know, your facility or pictures of the Gobstopper II and stuff, but, like, the fact that we're talking about it right now. You know, I think it's super cool, and I feel like some of the other players in the Subaru world could take a lesson from the kind of class that you guys have, for sure. So I'm just in awe. That's all. You know, I'm just appreciating all of this. So
I mean, that's really nice of you to say. I mean, that's, as I said earlier, it's kind of in our DNA, the way we've kind of go about things, which really is something that our father kind of passed down to us. Yeah, he was very approachable. Yeah, he didn't mind who he ate dinner with. He would eat dinner with all his mechanics, you know, with some of his sort of rally fans. You know, he'd even eat with the Queen. You know, he's very, very open, and that's taught us some really good, gives a really good grounding. As to, you know, we're all humans at the end of the day. We just do slightly different things, and it's good to share it, especially in this Subaru world that we find ourselves in, which is massive amount of passion. And I'm sure, you know, the likes of Ferrari and Lamborghini and, you know, all those amazing car brands have all got their following, but Subaru, you know, is right up there as well, and it's great to be part of it, and really blessed that it's part of our working day. We do this for a living, so yeah, it's touch wood, we're very, very appreciative of it all.
One of the, kind of what that makes me think of, something it seems like maybe a transition that the Subaru community has gone through in the last handful of years, is that there's been an increase in discussion, and to a certain extent, I mean, that's one of the goals that we have here with this podcast, with a lot of the content that we put out, is to you know, if we have a question or a problem that we're working on, is to let people know about it, and then if we find a solution, well, to let people know about that too. And I think that what I think it coincides with a little bit is this resurgence of people, at least over here in the States, that are really getting excited about tracking their Subarus again. There was this point kind of around, like, the last big body change for the Subarus here around like 14, 15, where people kind of went away from it, and there was a lot of people that had campaigned Subarus, a lot of, you know, in classes here, went into different platforms. but now there's more people that are coming back, or there's people that like, well, I went to a different platform, but I still have the Subaru race car. I'm still working on it, and now it's coming back. And so like it seems like there's a lot more discussion and a lot more information at a high level over here than there's been in a while. And I think it's breaking down barriers. It's making people realize, oh wait, there is a solution for this now, or there's a good option for this now. And all of a sudden, like the cars are progressing, the reliability is improving, and there's more and more people that are getting excited about running Subarus.
I think, John, with that obviously during the whole pandemic, where a lot of obviously people couldn't go out and have meals, or go out to restaurants or anything like that. They couldn't go on holiday. They couldn't go shopping, and then they kind of thinking, okay, so what are we going to do? And I think a lot of those guys have had those projects, thinking, great, that's perfect excuse to crack on and get our Subaru project finished, our track car, or our restoration, or whatever it is. And I think at the same time, as you rightly say, people have had access to social media and they've got problems and they put it out there. I'm struggling with X, Y, and Z, or where does this bolt go? And I think there's a huge wealth of experience out there and knowledge, where people are all too happy just to chip in and help other people, other Subaru people, fix those issues. And I think that's one, you could say that's a positive from the pandemic, that not that we were forced to do it because we all enjoy it, but I think that's often the case, where people are at home, they're in their garages, they're wielding their spanners, they're not allowed to go to work. And I think that's accelerated this whole love for the car, and let's get it ready for when lockdown eases and we can get out there on the track. And I think that's exactly what you just said, John. People it's encouraged it even more, so it's only good. So
absolutely anything that moves it forward and gets more Subarus on the track, it's a good thing.
Definitely.
You mentioned it, Ollie, the social media influence on that too, and people, the information is so easy for them to get. They put it out there like, hey, I'm having this problem, what track, community, what have you found to solve this? And the other side of that too, or in the same vein, the access to people who are competing is, there's greater access now than there has been, 5-10 years ago. Not only for, I can send you a message and ask you a question, and I have that access directly. I've had people, ask me, hey, how do I get into hill climbing, stuff like that. And these are people that, maybe they haven't shown up to a race and they've never wandered around a pit and asked these questions, and maybe they wouldn't have that opportunity if it weren't for social media, giving everyone access to their favorite racing driver or their favorite company's representative to get that information too. And so I think that's been a really powerful influence. And because I'm always happy, someone says, hey man, what turbo do you have, or how does it work and stuff like that. I know some people will keep their stuff secret, but I think, every one of us talking here, I think we've all shown that we're pretty happy to talk to people and help people out. And I think that's important. So,
yeah, definitely. Yeah. Definitely. I think the mobile phone has a lot to answer for, and it's great. We can message each other from different sides of the world, and you get an answer literally as if we're sat in the same room. It's it is fantastic.
It shrank the world.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, it's all positive, and I think that going back to the whole social thing, it will only make and accelerate things to make it even better. So
yeah,
it's
let's hope
a real positive. Yeah,
let's hope it stays positive. Well, yeah. And kind of to that end, Ollie, I wonder if you could talk a little bit about just kind of like give us an idea of what the time attack culture is there in the UK. There's a Facebook page for, I think it's Time Attack UK, where a lot of the races are streamed, and I've watched a couple of those. And one of the things that stuck out to me is that it feels similar, quite similar to like a lot of the Time Attack events here, where it's a lot of people that just want to go out there and run their cars. There's some really high level cars certainly that come out, but it seems like there is kind of that grassroots enthusiast base that this is kind of one of the paths for people to come in and compete and try to build a car that can go fast and solve some of those problems. And I think that's a lot of the draw of the culture over here, is that it's kind of an attainable form of motorsports. So there's the different tiers, and so there's some entry levels which are very minimally modified cars, and then tiers up to like the unlimited, where it's just kind of crazy. And it's that ladder system that kind of gets people excited about it. Would you say that it's similar over there?
I would say, yeah, definitely. Obviously we're all wanting the same thing. But I think the great thing about Time Attack is it does offer like an entry level. And again, the great thing where you're racing the clock as opposed to rubbing doors with someone is that, if you want to go out and do 4 laps and put a decent time in, you can do 4 laps. If you want to do the whole session and do 20, 25, 30 laps, you can do the whole session. And I think it's also accessible from a cost point of view. You can spend as much or as little as you want. And obviously, I think the great thing about Time Attack is that it does cater for everyone's budgets, everyone's time frame. The other thing that's probably slightly different here in the UK is we can get to any circuit within 3 hours. Whereas obviously in the US, obviously you guys have got to make a proper trip and fire up the RV and literally, travel halfway. Halfway across the country.
The amount of good circuits you have over there within a 3-hour drive is mind-boggling. I mean, within a 3-hour drive, there's 3 tracks.
Yeah.
Other than that,
you can't even get out of the state in 3 hours.
That's true. Yeah.
And I think that's something which we're really blessed with. It's very it's quite intensive, the amount of tracks that we've got in the UK, and they're decent tracks as well. And they've always got events on, and the actual, not only Time Attack, but the actual track day, whether it's bikes or cars or race cars, the calendars are all full. They're all to capacity. They're waiting lists on everything. And I think, certainly from where we're sat, this going back to the car and back to the components that we can source, is anywhere within Silverstone Circuit, which is kind of the heart of the motorsport industry in the UK. Within 100 miles, you can get anything done, whether it's composites or CNC work or wiring, or you want wheels made, pistons made, conrods made. And that's something that us as a country we're really privileged to have that,
Super unique.
It is, 100%.
And you're down the street from a handful of Formula One outfits, right? And
literally.
Drive and
Pro Drive is 54 miles from here. Aero, who do our conrods and cranks, are 1.5 miles that way. Amiga are 25 miles west. You've got Alcon Brakes, who are 35 minutes west. Literally, we've got AP Racing, who are on the doorstep as well. So we are spoiled.
That is the perfect environment for development. Just to try things and that's brilliant.
It's all part of the illness, guys. It's all part of the illness. So we're in the right part of the world.
Does that? I mean, all the tracks, all the accessibility, the fact that everything is close at hand. I mean, what would you say is the current state of motorsports enthusiasm in the UK? I mean, is it quite high? Is it like if you've traveled around a lot? I mean, would you say that there's a lot more enthusiasm for motorsport in the UK than a lot of the other places that you've been, just because of all that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, John, you have to look at what's right at the top, and obviously that is in our eyes is Formula One, and you've got some amazing British drivers out there. You've also got Lewis Hamilton, you've got George Russell, you've got Lando Norris. There's a massive amount of talent and British representation, and I think that then filters down. I mean, this year arguably has been one of the most exciting Formula One years for a long time. and obviously Max has really stirred things up, which is, I think, what the whole sport needed.
Mm-hmm.
But then that filters down into other motorsport events like touring cars or karting or bikes. And I think, in answer to your question, I think the amount of investment and the amount of people that are following these sports only just make it more and more popular and more exciting and more accessible, which then goes back to your social media. So I think the industry is really, really healthy. It's in a good state, I think. And I think, again, off the back of Formula One, safety is also improving. Product development's improving. So literally, it's getting more and more popular, and it has a greater following. So it's all good, 100%.
Do I want to open the can of worms of your opinion of the final of the Formula One this year, the Drivers' Championship?
I mean, I've got massive respect for Lewis, for what he's achieved. You know, Absolutely. And he hasn't achieved what he's achieved by accident. He's a fantastic driver. He's been in a great car. And obviously Max comes along, who's literally, he's got a huge amount of raw talent in a car that got better and better and better. I don't think, for me personally, I don't think the result was correct. I don't think it should have been settled that way. But it's swings and roundabouts. You know, you could say, obviously Max had a lot of bad luck during the season, which obviously put him on the back foot. And I think, end of the day, they both deserved to be world champion.
The bummer is that usually in motorsports, it's you think motorsports, one of the draws to it to participate in it is that it's clear, like whoever goes the fastest, whoever travels this distance in the shortest amount of time, or whoever crosses the finish line first, that's the person that won. It's usually very clear cut, and the bummer about the last year's Formula One season is that there's this little asterisk in those last couple laps that's like it doesn't feel clear cut. It's not as I don't know. I'm not as comfortable with the result in either direction as it could have been, and that's the difficult part. But the whole, like I said, the whole run leading up to it was an amazing season, and it's like, could either one of those drivers have had a slightly different result in a couple of races to make it so that the last race didn't even matter? Absolutely, but it just all fell into the place where it was decided in the last race, in the last couple of laps, but it just didn't have that resounding, definitive motorsports ending necessarily.
Yeah,
that would have. I think we all would have been more comfortable with.
Yeah. I fully agree with you, John. I think the amount of time, the amount of effort, the amount of investment that goes into what is the pinnacle of most things in human life, Formula One, I think for it to be settled and come away as a bit of a grey result, as in, I think it was a real shame, and I think there'll be a lot of lessons learned from it. Hopefully a lot of lessons learned, so that it doesn't happen again. So
it's always nice in motorsports to just have that clear, definition of what happened in the race, who won, who was second, and why. Because they had this issue, or whatever. But
I think it's easy to focus on the last lap, the last race, but I think there were issues all the way through the season which affected
both teams.
For both teams, 100%, Mercedes and Red Bull, which affected which way it swung. I know they were obviously trying to make it a real spectacle and keep it tight and close, but there were inconsistencies during the year which then culminated at the end, which you could say, was it down to the last lap? It probably shouldn't have been down to the last lap. It should have been settled before, but we live and learn. Hope this year is equally as impressive and exciting, and being a Brit, we're wishing Lando Norris all the best, and George Russell obviously in the new, obviously he's taken Bottas's seat, so wishing him all the best. Quite exciting.
And what is that relationship between Russell and Hamilton going to be like? You know, like hopefully it's good, hopefully it's constructive, but like you think back to when Hamilton and Rosberg were like both right there at the pinnacle and right there able to compete for the championship, and then that relationship ended up like that completely melted down, and it ended up being a pretty tense season. So
yeah, that was
fun to watch.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it'd be interesting. We still don't know whether Lewis is going to come back or not. We hope he does.
Right.
And you know, I think George has got some decent experience now. He's obviously got some pace because he showed us that. But I think it's going to be another great season. But obviously, into all that mix, you've got these completely new cars as well. So it'd be really interesting to see what happens there.
I'm really curious to see how the aero changes are actually gonna, like, if it's really gonna change the racing that much, right? It's so much of the effort was to close up the racing and stuff, and I'm excited for it. I can't wait. I'm excited for a good season.
It's one of the interesting things that you realize thinking back on the 2021 Formula One season as a fan, as an enthusiast, is that the greatest thing is that you were on the edge of your seat for a good chunk of the whole season, especially the last race, like down to the last lap or two. You did not know what was going to happen. You had to know what was going to happen. And as nice as a dynasty or a really dominant team is, there's a point where that kind of it loses that enthusiasm, because it's like, well, these guys are like seconds ahead of everybody else, and so like the mid-pack battle becomes like the most interesting thing. But what we got last year was the not knowing and seeing these cars that were all struggling with it. That's what was the coolest thing, I think.
And also what's interesting, John, is we're still talking about it, and we know who the world champion is, and I dare say, you know, 2 or 3 events in, we'll still be talking about what happened in the final round in 2021. So you know, who's to say what's right and wrong? So
and that's what's, I mean, to bring it back to the Gobstopper, I mean, that's what's cool, because like pushing those limits, setting a new standard, or like trying to like think outside the box and really go in a new direction. Like as an enthusiast, it's like, what is going to happen? Like what is this going to do? Is this going to completely redefine what cars can do, what this type of car can do, what like a Subaru engine can do, all those sorts of things? It's getting on that edge of the seat again. I'm like, okay, how's this all going to shake out? What can this do?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of our kind of remit, is to try and keep pushing that before the electric motors kind of really grabs hold of things. And I'd like to think we're trying to probably prove the electric motor wrong, because you know it's performing so well and will be difficult to beat. But it's nice to have a challenge to throw into the mix. I mean, as far as development is concerned, that will never change. As long as we're competing, we'll always find areas that you're addressing the weakest link. And you know, to put it into perspective, we're now doing more power. So when we ran Gobstopper 1, we used to run quite a bit of nitrous, but we're now doing more power without nitrous than we ran in Gobstopper with nitrous. So literally, development has carried on, and you know, we've developed a lot of sort of new componentry along the way to do that power reliably and safely, so that ultimately we're getting to the end of these events, you know.
And still basically the same engine geometry. So it's like I don't think the engine that you're using now is a significant change from what you had in Gobstopper 1 making all that. So it's all the other aspects that have gone into it that have allowed that same engine to like go and make way more power than it did initially.
Yeah, that's right, John. You know, there's so many the base foundation is remained unchanged, but there's so many ingredients that also go into the pot, and you'll never find a revolutionary step, certainly with engine development now, but you'll find lots of small additions that you can improve, and you add all those small additions together and then you get a considerable step forward. And I think that's kind of where we're at with stuff. It's about fine tuning. Certainly over the past 5 years, 6 years, a lot of developments happened. And the great thing about having a rolling rotor dyno in-house is that you can test, during those cold, dark nights, as opposed to having to wait until you're on the track. So
and you can, like, in a controlled environment, confirm, like you're talking about the transmission cooler to a certain extent. Like, well, let's try this. This should make this much of a difference. But then you can put it on the dyno and see, like, are you moving in the right direction? Are you getting closer to that solution, or have you found that solution or not?
Yeah,
then
100%. Yeah, 100%. And
Have you guys,
having that.
Oh. Sorry, go. Have you guys done any research or development yet on either hybrid or electric for the future? Like, do you think Gobstopper 4 will be hybrid or electric?
Oh, that's a tough one. That is a real tough one. I think the problem that we're going to have is the electric motors don't make the right noises, do they? Whereas the
I agree.
the flat four boxer makes the right noises, and I think that's probably the biggest reason not to go electric.
Well, and I think there's always going to be an enthusiast base. I mean, like, you think about right now, how much of it there's a big enthusiast base for classic car racing. I mean, all you got to do if you want to have a classic car is just wait a little bit, and then you're going to have a classic car, and you can go racing. I think there's always going to be people that are going to love and want to race, internal combustion engine vehicles, at least for a long, long time to come. But I think, electric, who knows? I mean, it's in such its infancy, but like some of the early things that are now starting to come out, like where people have really kind of come up with these weird, crazy solutions, it's definitely gonna change things.
This whole electric, the rate of change seems to be accelerating with the whole electric sort of revolution as well.
Yeah. And
I think the biggest handicap at the moment is two things. One is range, and B is weight. And I think that those two areas are areas that they're really pushing hard and developing hard. And I think once they get the weight out of them as well, they'll be really, really difficult to beat.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I was talking to a friend of mine who was talking about the possibility of doing Le Mans 24-hour as an electric car, which is, difficult to get your head around, but I don't think it's too far away. So
the battery technology.
They're going to have, hot swap batteries too, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Where kind of like they do with forklifts and everything it is right now, except they'll have some kind of implementation. If they're not going through pit stops, what's a 10-minute battery change when you're only doing it once,
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right, Ryan. I saw an interesting documentary the other day about the guys in Norway that literally you drive your car into what is like a car wash, and the battery pack disappears from the floor, goes underneath, slides out, and then you get a replacement put in, and literally it takes the same amount of time as it does to fill the tank up, and then you're on your way. And I think that's like a remote control car. You run the battery low, you just swap the battery, and you carry on playing with it. I think it will go that way.
Yeah.
Ollie, have you seen that STI has a new ERA concept? So like they're teasing that that Subaru is now they're promising to build something that they're trying to move in that direction and explore this.
I think they have to, John, to survive. Everyone else is going that way. Otherwise, they're going to get left behind. And as I understand it, they're doing quite a bit with Toyota to get that solution. Which, I mean, that's just the way the world is going.
One of the interesting things is, so Subaru's spin on it, if you will, is that they're saying that their concept is it has an electric motor on each wheel, and that they're going to have a proprietary torque vectoring technology that utilizes these 4 electric motors per wheel. So, I mean, what do you, I guess, kind of related to this change to electric, how much do you as a driver want to be in control of what the vehicle is doing? Because like one of the things that I can see coming down the pipe with this is that there's going to be a computer or a few computers that are controlling how these motors work, to the point where like you're turning a wheel and you're giving it gas, but there's a computer that's intercepting all of those commands and then changing them to actually optimize it, say, so that you are not like completely physically in control of what the car is doing. Do you think that if they can do that and get like a real performance increase, that would be a good thing? Or do you think like if you're not really in control of the car, that loses some interest for you?
I think again, it's really interesting, John. At what point do you let technology have all the fun, and what point do you try and hang on to the fun? And I think, you know, there is good examples, you know, where what's better, technology or actual human inputs? And I think if you look at something as basic as ABS, which is obviously has its safety benefits, most performance driving people prefer to run without it, or although you do have hybrids of motorsport sort of ABS. I think as long as it doesn't take away the enjoyment, then it can only be a positive thing. If it starts to make cars boring to drive or too predictable, and it takes away the challenge then of driving fast, then it probably won't be a popular thing. Yeah. But as with any of these driver aids, you can always switch them off and crack the boost up, and off you go.
It seems like it's one of those things where it could come to the point where it just feels like you're in a simulator all the time, as opposed to actually being in a car and driving the car. You know, I mean, you're in a simulator, and the good ones, you have feedback, you can kind of feel some things, but you're still just playing a video game. And, you know, you get into, I could see you getting into one of these cars and there's so many nannies, and the computers are doing everything, that you're just kind of like in a simulator, just trying to hang on, because I'm sure they're going to be super fast. But yeah, whereas at what point does that enjoyment just turn into playing a video game?
Well, and to that, I think that's one of the draws, just from a driver's standpoint, is finding new skills and new techniques to drive the car in a different way, or with a different approach, and see and feel the benefits. Like that's the exciting part, is like being able to like figure out, like with the Gobstopper, with all of this extra aero now, like, okay, I can now go through this corner at a speed where my brain says I'm going off and bad things are going to happen. And like, no, that's actually just like, that's a Tuesday for this car. Like that is not a challenge at all. And you have to reset your brain to be able to do that. I think that's, if that goes missing, then that's where like enthusiasm for that kind of a power plant, I think, is a danger.
I kind of have a devil's advocate perspective. You know, think about 15, 20 years ago, how hard it was to get on TV. Like as a race car driver to get on TV, you're like, oh my God, you know, like that dude's a big deal. Now social media has made it where like everybody can say they're a race car driver and somebody's following them and their mom can see them and stuff like that. I wonder if like as the technology develops, the need to be the really high-end talented race car driver becomes less and less important, and then it starts to water down what like essentially is the definition of a talented driver, you know? So yeah, it might not appeal to us where we can drive faster outside of the existing limits of traction controls and stuff. But for people who can't drive as well as say Tasso, now all of a sudden they can be the next hill climb challenger to Tasso, and he's in his old ass machine. And now there's like, you know, this whatever, it's basically just holding on to it, you know?
I don't think anyone would argue that like Romain Dumas is bad driver because he drove an electric car, right?
But he's proven it in other cars.
Okay, that's fair.
But I guess the point is that just, I think there really is like, that's kind of one of these maybe easy to forget cores of like motorsports, like is the driver and what the driver is doing, that it's the driver with the car, not just the car, not just the driver. It's the relationship between the two.
Well, Ollie put it best a second ago when he talked about well, electric car would make the right noises, right? At the end of the day, I know maybe it's faster if I don't know, electric converted my hill climb Subaru, I don't know, as an example, right?
Yeah.
But part of why I enjoy what I'm doing is for that tactile sensation, for the feeling of manual brakes and an H pattern gearbox and all these things.
Yeah.
And I think that especially as stuff changes and becomes more computerized, becomes probably faster, right? And at the end of the day here in cycling, right? You know, the guys that are doping are going faster. It's the way of the future. If the sport wants to evolve, motorsports, it's going to have to become electronic and computerized and stuff. But there will always be, I think, a core that's like that, you know, I mean, look at even in supercars. I was just learning the other day, GMA, Gordon Murray's company, and their new T33. I get, you know, in a world of, you know, hybrid and computerized supercars and all these things. You know, even GMA offers a fan car that's street legal and stuff, but still they have this T33 that's mechanical and it's tactile and it's about that driving sensation and so much of that for even on the spectator side is they want to see and hear and feel it in their chest when the car goes by and stuff like that. And that's, I think, especially as things become more advanced, I think we may even see more of a push for these very sensation driven cars.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ollie. You're going to say something.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that's something that has developed a lot in recent years is, you know, the computer game has turned into a simulator, which then has turned into almost like its own global sport. We've got a exhibition centre that's, again, not far from here. And every year, in January, the beginning of the year, all the exhibitors go. And I remember early days, you might see 3 or 4 computer games there, which you might, then the following year, you saw 3 or 4 sort of companies putting a simulator on the stand to promote getting people on the stand. They weren't selling simulators, they were selling brake discs or fuel tanks or whatever. Now, suddenly, there's a whole hall of simulators. And now you've got people all around the world racing each other in whatever formula you want, in any discipline that you want. But as Tasso said, there's something that technology doesn't give you. It doesn't give you the smell of fuel. It doesn't give you that rumble in your chest. It doesn't give you that adrenaline rush anywhere near as when you're strapped in that car and you're going up the hill, or you're going around the track, or you're rubbing doors with someone, or you're racing the clock. And I don't think you'll ever find I don't think you'd ever be able to fabricate that artificially, which I think is a good thing. But having said that, what will be interesting is how people who, and I think a chap in a Nissan Skyline did it, where he was a real successful gamer, and they gave him a works drive in a real car. And I think actually he did make the transition pretty well.
Yeah.
And I forget the guy's name, but he did a really good job there. But is that going to be the future, where people spend so much time on their simulators, they jump in the car and literally they're straight up to speed? I'm not so sure. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
I
is
remember that was a TV program. They did a whole series on a selection process.
Yeah,
Nissan
Driving Academy.
Yeah.
And they've actually had good success. There's actually been a handful of drivers that have graduated from that, and they've run, I think, at Bathurst, and I think they've won their class at Bathurst. And I think they've done some other racing in Europe. So I mean, there's kind of beginning to be a precedent set for that as a feeder, as a direction into motorsport.
Well, I think though, so many of those, because I thought about this after I watched that program. I thought, man, do I need to get a simulator? Like, am I screwing up by not having one? Am I leaving something on the table here? And I thought about that, and I think that what a lot of these drivers are getting from they get a lot of the fundamentals or the process, the steps down. But I don't have any formal driving instruction, and I consider myself very much like a seat of the pants driver. Like, I think where a lot of whatever success I have comes from is in feeling the car. And, you know, I never had formal instruction on like brake, trail brake, weight transfer, lead, you know, on all these. Obviously, you can tell I don't even know what words to use because I've never taken formal instruction, right? but so I wonder if a lot of these simulation drivers that have that success, it comes from the discipline and learning, the patience, the recognition of where you make up time on a track, and all of these kind of higher level fundamentals of racing. And then all they have to add is the seat of the pants feel later.
It could be.
I think that's where the benefit of the simulation is it's weight training, for example, right? As opposed to going out and doing an activity, you take, you know, a muscle group in isolation and you exercise it. So in simulation, you can take a mindset in isolation, or you can take, you know, breaking points in isolation and work on those individually. And then they have to go and apply that afterwards by putting the whole thing together. And so I think it gives them an advantage, but I don't think just by simulation they become good drivers. I think it gives them a base to build from. Does that make sense?
You still have to get in the car. At the end of the day, you still have to get into the car.
And you have to experience the real world aspects of driving a car. Like, oh, wait, what is that smell? I never had that smell in my simulation. Like, where's that smell coming from?
Or
where's
vibration.
that ticking coming from? The vibration.
Yeah.
You know, that's what fresh cut grass smells like when you go off. You know, there's those things that you have to experience in the real world.
Yeah.
That you're just not going to get in a simulation. But yeah, I mean the fundamentals, the basics of you know, turn in and braking points, and I mean it's all going to be there. You're just missing out on the good part of life.
The good parts, the fun parts.
I would say that the simulation can. I think that the amount of time that you do on a simulator allows you to do a fast lap time, and I think you can get really close to reality. But I don't think what the simulator will give you is, if that gap's there and you go for it, you can't. I don't think you can practice that. That is something that, you know, Max Verstappen has got in abundance. Lewis has got in abundance. You can't teach the brain to go for a gap, especially if it isn't there. And I think that's something obviously that simulators will never teach you.
Yeah,
and that is that raw talent.
And the stakes are different when it's a computer, and if it doesn't work, you just hit the reset button and you're like, let's try it again. That's way different than like you're in the real world and there's no reset button. And like there's real stakes at play if you dive into that corner.
When I play rally video games, I crash a lot. I crash a lot.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. Well, Olly, as we're kind of winding down here, and again, thank you very much for coming and joining us and making the time. Can you give us any kind of idea of kind of like what you guys have on the horizon for 2022? Is there anything that you can kind of talk about as far as like what you're thinking about for this year?
Sure, John. We've got a number of exciting things in the pipeline. Obviously, the car. We're getting pretty close to the weather becoming a little bit warmer, so the tyres will start working and we can start to lean on it. And that's not going to be too far away. So hopefully the small revisions that we found when we went to Donington, they'll be Matt's implemented those, and we'll be able to get back in the car and really, you know, stretch its legs and see what it'll do, which is super exciting. So yeah, that's bubbling away and you know, not far away. We've got a new website which is very close to being released, which again will help with our sort of product accessibility, which again very excited about, to get into the sort of 21st century with things. We've got quite a few things product development wise, which is also bubbling away, which will find their way through to obviously the mainstream product range that we've got, and that's something that is always ongoing, always developing, to basically give customers better service, to be able to have better stock holding, to have components faster. You know, and I think we're all blessed with fantastic couriers. We use DHL, as you know, and they do a fantastic job, and you can get components all around the world so quickly. So lots of exciting things to look forward to.
Any events that you can hint at?
So we'll be doing the Time Attack Series. So the UK Time Attack Series is the plan. It would be really, really nice if Goodwood invited us back.
That would be fun.
Which would be great. And the event, Goodwood, is the end of June. So again, that isn't too far away.
No.
But obviously, if let's say, you know, we do get the because it's by invitation, so you have to wait to be invited. If they do have us back, you know, that would be a great event to be attending. And there are other hill climbs that, again, depending on the amount of development that we need to do and what areas we need to look at, there will be other events as well. It will be amazing to load the car up into container and send it your way, John, and let's go to the US. That would be awesome.
I mean, you can send it to me. That I would not complain at all. Yes.
Well, we got to get home for it.
Yeah, that would be phenomenal. Someday at some point, I'm sure that will come into being possible. It would be amazing to just kind of, you know, we're getting ready to go. In 2 weeks to Texas to Circuit of the Americas.
2.5 weeks.
Awesome.
And it's that there's a Super Lap Battle there is, I mean, it's just growing. It's a Circuit of the Americas. It's like one of the premier tracks in this country, and to have Time Attack on that circuit is pretty awesome. And the more and more people are getting excited about it. That the cars that are coming out are just getting better and better every year, and it'd be amazing to see, you know, Gobstopper 3, Gobstopper 2, any of the Gobstoppers there really would be pretty phenomenal. So that would be awesome.
That would be awesome.
I'll tell you.
Obviously, we're familiar with the circuit because obviously they use it in the Formula One, and it's a very, very unique circuit. Really fast around the back.
Yeah.
You can see they definitely make the aero work. That's for sure. But no, it'd be great if we can get everything together and up to speed. It would be awesome to be able to come over and have a go. That's for sure.
Awesome. What are you
I
gonna say,
tell you,
Ryan?
there's not Time Attack cars in the U.S. currently competing that are built at that level right now. So it would be cool to see that car at that level, you know.
Mm-hmm. Well, and
just really shake things up, push the envelope.
That's one of the cool things is, you know, if you like sometimes context is hard. You know, like how fast is a car that runs at Time Attack compared to a car that does circuit racing? How fast is a car that does hill climbs compared to a Time Attack car or a circuit racing car?
Mm-hmm.
But when you get them all on the same track, well, then you know, like we were saying, like motorsports is definitive. You know what the fast time is, and you know what time your car is doing, then you know. So you bring that over, and then that could, one, it would be amazing to see, but then two, it might be inspiration for other people here to like, all right, we now know what Roger Clark has done. Let's see what we can do. And elevate that Time Attack game even again. Yeah, that's one of the cool things with Time Attack and with hill climbs. It's just when somebody comes in there and shakes everything up, then that stirs everybody else up to like, all right, now we've got to elevate our game and see what else we can bring to the table.
Definitely, I think when someone comes up with a new area like Nemo did in World Time Attack, that was a big step forward and a big change of mindset away from as much power as possible to actually the power's fine. Let's look at the cornering speed and let's look at the aero side. And that was a big inspiration for us as well. You know, with the aero side of things with Gobstopper 2, what happened in World Time Attack, you can't ignore it. You know, it is a huge part.
Yeah. And it just keeps moving that threshold, that goal even further and further down, and it increases the development for all of us.
100%. Yeah, lots. Never stop. Absolutely.
Yes. Well, very cool. Well, as we're winding down here, guys, did any of you guys have a last question that we wanted to ask Olly?
No, I just want to say thanks again for coming on. It's always good to talk to you.
Absolutely.
Get some of that insight.
Likewise, guys. It's always absolute pleasure, and it's always great fun. And it's good to catch up. And we wishing everyone a really successful 2022. And
Absolutely.
looking forward to our next chat, John, if you'll have us back, and catch up with you all again. And let's sure everyone stays healthy and safe and has a good year.
Yes,
Absolutely.
well,
Same
and
to
for
you.
sure.
man.
Once you get Gobstopper 3 out there and running and start competing, like we're definitely going to have to come back and kind of hear how it's all going, hear the stories of what you guys learned and what worked, what didn't, and the solutions that you found. So yeah, we'll definitely we'll chat again. Absolutely.
That's awesome. Brilliant,
Yes.
guys. Well, thanks a lot for having me, and we'll catch up with you soon. Yeah.
Yes, as
Sounds
always.
good,
Yeah.
Ollie.
Yeah.
Thanks very much,
All right,
everybody, for
guys.
listening. And as always, stay tuned with Flatirons Tuning.
Thanks everyone for tuning in to the Flatirons Syndicate Motorsports Podcast. Once again, we'd like to let you know that your support is what makes this show possible. Be sure to check out our online store at flatironstuning.com for any of your aftermarket or OEM Subaru parts needs. And as always, stay tuned with Flatirons Tuning.